Something you've been talking a lot about, Dave, and just in terms of coaching quality you want in a new head coach. What are the important things? And everybody's got a different priority list, if you will. But being the teacher or the X and O's style coach, is that more important than the motivator, or do you break that up into three different categories: teacher, X's and O's, motivator, or how do you size that up?
Yeah, what did we talked about X's and O's, wizard, but. I don't know. When you portray it that way, it's like, okay, this is the guy that he knows the game, but can he express it to, his players? And then there's the motivator, the guy
Pete.
It's Pete, yeah, basically. And then, I would say Mike McDaniel maybe reflects what I'm talking about as far as X's and O's go. But, teachers, it's somewhere in between. It's a little bit of both, Bob.
Who would be a teacher you'd point to that's in the league now that you look at it? Because McDaniel kind of, in watching him in that Hard Knocks show, he's kind of a motivator. He's kind of hey, we don't give a bleep about that, and we're fine. There's a great opportunity. He's not Pete. He's not bouncing off the wall, but he's kind of a energetic, upbeat guy.
Well, I think Sean McVay, and we'll get to his coaching tree, holy moly. But yeah, I mean, I think I told that story about, somebody that worked with him very closely, and that they don't spend much time in a team meeting and, doing anything other than just going and getting on film and getting up on the grease board and then walking through it. And it's just, everything is about teaching. A guy that people probably wouldn't know is Carl Scott. And I don't know if he's going to end up with a job here or not. I'm not sure exactly. When they tell the coaching staff, hey, you're free to pursue other coaching jobs, I don't know what that means and who would possibly hire him. I'm sure, let's say it's Dan Quinn. He probably knows 5 or 6 or 7 guys on the staff, and some that he likes. And so Carl Scott, if you go and look at when he was coaching defense at Alabama, and right before they got him, and he came in with Sean Desai. Sean Desai didn't work out too well. It's pretty amazing. But for him, there was a video, like a 45-minute video, where he's up teaching a bunch of coaches football. And the way he is going through it, just his understanding, and he's explaining it, and people are giving him questions, and he answers it perfectly. And, I think Carl Scott is that kind of guy. But, yeah, I mean, a more evident, candidate is Sean McVay. Sean McVay just, he's an X's and O's guy, and but he knows how to teach. He knows how to get it to his players. And this is what I always talk about, that the guys that can instill it in you that, okay, it makes sense to me. And that was, I would ask lots of questions when I was the middle linebacker and I had to make the calls. And if things didn't make sense to me, I'd be like, well, why do we call it that? And every once in a while, it'd be like, well, it's because of this. Okay, fine. And then other times it would be like, okay, you're right. Because I was always like, I don't want a whole bunch of stuff in my brain.
Right.
So to me, a teacher will tell you, exactly what you need and nothing more. Nothing to clog
Don't
up.
overload you.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about that with Schlereth, brought this up yesterday, that there's some of these coaches that they try to scheme for every little thing. And all of a sudden you've got all these rules, and the rules are something that you have to remember, as opposed to something that's logical and makes sense. It's like a flow of like, oh, okay, this is that, so we do this. And instead of, oh, but that is an outlier, so we have to have this rule and that rule. It just gets too confusing.
KJ Wright talking about, different head coaching styles, and he was talking about here, Malcolm Smith and Richard Sherman told him about Kyle Shanahan's process leading up to a game.
I'll tell you this, Malcolm Smith, we all know Malcolm Smith played for the Seahawks, but he went to San Francisco, and he would describe their team meetings with Kyle Shanahan. Rich Sherman told me this too. He would say they would just know every single thing, like the detailed team meetings that he would take with those guys. He would say they learned so much just about ball, just about the X's and O's, just about why are we doing this? Why are we running this play here against this defense?
Sounds like exactly what you want right there.
Right, yeah. That's what I wanted to know. Why? I wanted to know what's the reason for this? Because
that's weird for you, because it seems like old school coaches would be like, because that's the way I want it.
Yeah, because I said so.
Yeah, why is it called this? Because that's what I call it.
Yeah.
Now go out there and do your thing.
Well, I had Tom Catlin, who was about as dry as could be, I think one time he asked me about my personal life, and it was a business that I was doing with my dad, and he asked me a couple of questions about it, and I almost fell over because all he talked about was. But I mean, he looked like one of those guys that was an old school, do it my way because I said so, but he wasn't. He was the guy I told the story about yesterday that at the end of the meeting, he'd say, okay, any questions? And usually he didn't have one. And I was so proud of myself when I finally did. But I mean, yeah, it was explained perfectly. And that's where, when at the end, if people aren't asking questions, then it's been explained pretty much in great detail.
One more from KJ explaining why he wants whoever the new head coach is to call plays.
In the first year, when you get here, call the dang plays. I want you to do it. I don't want you to come in and just hand it off to someone new. I want you to groom the next coordinator that's going to call the plays. I want you to teach him your style. I want him to watch you and how you move and operate. I want you to be the play caller and the head coach. Don't just come in here, just be the overseer of every dang thing. No, I'm trying to win ball games. I need them X's and O's that I hired. I need them X's and O's. I need your brain on Sunday.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, do you agree with that?
Well, look, if it's Dan Quinn, I mean, he's the D coordinator in Dallas. Who is he going to get? And he doesn't really, he's got to get somebody who knows his system and everything. He knows the system. So I don't know. I agree with him.
What if it's a first-year guy? What if it's Mike McDonald? What if it's Ben Johnson, who they've never been a head coach, and now they're taking on all the responsibilities of being a first-time head coach, and they're going to be calling the plays? Does that feel like too much?
I don't know. I mean, I think it might be more work to explain your entire system that you have in your head to a whole bunch of coaches. So I don't know. I don't know what's the right way. I know DeMeco Ryans calls his defense. I'm fine with that. I know Brandon Staley was calling the defense when he was coaching the Chargers, and for some reason it worked when he was the D coordinator.
Yeah.
To your point, when he goes to be a head coach, it kind of all falls apart. Look at the Chargers defense. It wasn't anywhere near what he was running and with the Rams, and I don't think it was all about personnel.
Haven't we seen a bunch of head coaches, like they have the play calling duties and they turn it over to somebody else because it's not working or it's not working with this guy, so they assume it. And I feel like we've seen that a bunch with different head coaches where they've been in charge of everything, if you will, and then it wasn't going well. So, all right, now this guy's going to call plays.
Yeah. This is kind of why I favor Dan Quinn at this point, because he has been a head coach in the league for the Atlanta Falcons, right? And so to me, these other guys, we have no idea if they have the qualities to be a head coach. We know this, that Ben Johnson and Mike McDonald, they can call the heck out of offense and defense, but as far as leadership, I mean, like Jim Harbaugh totally knows that. His coaches love him, his players love him, but we don't know that about these guys. And we see all the time guys like Josh McDaniels that they're coordinators, then they get a head coaching job, and that's not really for them.